Welcome to the Communication Analysis video. My name is Jeff and I'm a part of the Solutions team here at Relativity. In this video, we'll provide an overview of the Communication Analysis tool and how it can help you uncover new insights about your data. Communication Analysis is a Relativity widget that helps you visually explore interactions and connections between entities to easily see who's been talking to whom, how often, when, and what about. Communication Analysis is available after running the name normalization operation within Structured Analytics. The visualization is based on the entity from and entity recipient fields that are populated when name normalization is run. Like all widgets in Relativity, Communication Analysis is fully interactive, allowing you to visualize communication frequencies, patterns, and networks between the entities linked to the documents in the view. Let's jump into Relativity and take a look. Okay, we're looking at a folder in our Relativity workspace that contains around 30,000 documents, which are mostly emails. I can see that name normalization has been run on this dataset because the entity from and entity recipient fields are populated. In this scenario, we want to quickly dive into these emails to get a better picture of which individuals were strategically important to our investigation and who they were communicating with. To start, I'm going to click on Add Widget at the upper right and select Communication Analysis. You can see that initially the visualization is hard to read, so I'll do a couple of things to fix that. First, I'll click on the menu at the upper right and choose Maximize. Next, I'll use the scroll wheel on my mouse to zoom in on the widget. I can also click and drag the mouse to move around. Now that I've scrolled in a bit farther, you can see that every one of the blue circles contains the name of one of the people or entities in my dataset. These circles are called nodes. The larger the node, the more communications that entity was involved in. At first glance, it looks like Eric Bass, Larry Campbell, Lynn Blair, and Mike Maggie were some of the top communicators in this collection. Note that for larger datasets like this one, only the top 500 communicators by volume are displayed at one time. This ensures the visualization doesn't get so expansive that it ceases to be useful. Let's take a closer look at the biggest communicator in this dataset. Watch as I hover over the Eric Bass node. Notice that I can see how many emails Eric sent and received in the pop-up. In addition, all of the entities Eric communicated with are highlighted in blue, while the rest are grayed out. By now you've noticed the lines connecting the nodes, which correspond with communications that occurred between the entities. As you can see, these lines, or links, have different thicknesses. The width of each link represents the relative volume of bidirectional communications between these two people. In other words, the link thickness represents the number of emails where one entity is named in the entity from field and the other entity is named in the entity recipient field in Relativity. So in this dataset, Communication Analysis gives us a quick way to see that Eric Bass exchanged fewer emails with Chad Landry than he did with Shanna Husser. Along with who had the highest volume of emails, Communication Analysis also helps you see who exchanged the most emails with others. This can help you identify the people in a group or organization who may have been responsible for sending mass emails, or on the flip side, those who were included regularly on emails from a wide variety of others. Zooming in on the node representing Rhonda Denton, notice how many links emanate from the node to others in the visualization. Hovering on the node, notice that she sent 257 emails and only received 23. While we'd have to review the emails a little more closely to see exactly what she was doing, upon first glance, it looks like she was in charge of distributing mass emails to a broad group of people. She might be someone we'd want to follow up on as strategically important to our investigation. To select all of the emails sent or received by Rhonda, I click on the node, which creates a filter condition for all of the emails where she was sending or receiving entity. Then I could use the mass operations bar below the widget to select all 294 of the emails and mass tag them. Remember that the number 294 here represents the number of emails, not the number of entities displayed. Or I could filter them down further using conditions available in the search panel. In this case, though, let's go back and take a little bit more close look at our top communicator by volume and see what Eric Bass was up to. When you click Clear All Conditions and reset the view, you'll notice that the spatial orientation can change a little bit when the widget refreshes. Don't worry about this, the connections between the nodes are the same, the layout's just a little bit different. Okay, I'll zoom in on Eric Bass again, and then click on his node to select it. Something to note here is that many nodes don't have a specific link to Eric's node. We can see this when we hover. This is likely because Eric Bass and these other individuals were included on the same mass email, but they never directly communicated with each other. Let's say the case team wanted some more details on Eric's involvement in financial transactions. We could add a search term on the word fees to narrow down the visualization a bit. I'll use the search bar at the top in my DT search index to do just that. Okay, so it looks like we found a small network of individuals that exchanged over 80 emails with Eric Bass containing the word fees. But let's use another relativity widget to dive a bit deeper. I'm going to switch over to a dashboard I've created that contains the communication analysis widget, as well as a cluster visualization widget where I can see conceptually similar clusters of documents displayed using the dial. With the dial, I can see that a cluster containing the most documents to or from Eric Bass containing the word fees is named Game Football Week Players. I'm going to select that cluster and click Apply. Okay, now we've narrowed things down to 32 emails. I'll open the first one to see if I can gain some more insight. As you might have suspected, this email appears to be related to Eric's Fantasy Football League, discussing league fees and other administrative items. It's not related to business transactions at all. Now returning to the document list, look again at the communication analysis widget. Based upon all our selected conditions, we can make a fairly safe assumption that this network of nodes represents emails exchanged between Eric Bass and his Fantasy Football League members that mentioned fees. This represents just one way you can use communication analysis along with other relativity tools to gain deeper insights into how individuals were communicating in your dataset. In addition to what I just demonstrated, there are many other potential use cases for communication analysis. For example, you could use filters or widgets to focus on interactions in a specific date range. You can combine communication analysis with a tool like STRs to see who is using some key terms. You can identify new individuals that you might not have initially expected to be key communicators. And you can use the visuals themselves to understand things, like who the CFO was communicating with, or how the employees in the procurement department communicate with each other. I think you'll find that the more you work with the widget, the better you get at spotting these key insights. That brings us to the end of the video. Thanks for joining me.